Did you find that video quite interesting? It was an interesting video, wasn't it? Who are you? It seems like a very, very simple question. Who are you? Sometimes we reply by saying our name. But we could change our name and we'd still be the same person, so we can't be our name. We sometimes reply, who are you, by telling people our profession. But people go through career changes all the time. But you still remain the same person. We may reply to the question, who are you, by telling people about our hobbies. But our hobbies change. So many things about us change, but something remains the same. And this piece of spiritual wisdom is the most important piece of wisdom to understand. And this is what we'll try to present to you today. So, all of what we're speaking about is contained within the ancient scriptures known as the Vedas. Cue the change of slide. So these are the ancient Vedic scriptures you see here. Does anyone know what this language is? Sanskrit, exactly. So Sanskrit is one of the oldest languages in the world, and it's actually said to be the mother of all languages. So if you see many Indo-European languages, they are all actually have an intimate relationship with Sanskrit. So these ancient teachings were written down in Sanskrit, and all of these concepts that Guru Das was mentioning, karma, reincarnation, the soul, meditation, yoga, all of these concepts were actually contained within these ancient Sanskrit literatures. And within these body of literatures is a book called the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very, very famous book. And what we'll try to do is explain one of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita today to you. So before I tell the verse to you in English, I thought it would be nice if I recite it in Sanskrit for you. Would that be okay? Yeah, I'm not very good, so you have to give me some encouragement with your attention. So I'll recite to you one of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita and then try to elucidate upon its meaning to us. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dahinosmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhirastatra namuyati. So Sanskrit is a language, is not just spoken, it's actually sung. And this is one of the very, very famous verses within the Bhagavad Gita. The English translation is as follows. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes to another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. The ancient teachers explain how this body, what we see in the mirror every day, the body is simply a machine. The body is simply a dress. The body is simply a covering. Every single one of us in this room are all actually spiritual beings. We're all spirit souls. This is something that ancient wisdom teachers from all traditions in all countries across the world have talked about. The body is simply a covering, but we are all actually spiritual beings. The body, as you know, is made up of different chemicals, water, hydrogen, nitrogen. They actually analyzed all the chemicals within our body. And then they did some calculations to try to find out what the market value of all the chemicals that are needed to make up this body, what the market value of all those chemicals would be. So how much do you think it would cost chemically to make up this body? Any guesses? How much much would it cost you if you went to buy all the chemicals needed to make up this body, this physical machine? We have a £50 there. Anyone else? £2.80. Like what's you've not done it, have you? So we have a £2.80. We have a £50. Any other takers? £250. Sorry? I didn't catch it. Can you say it again? Oh, 5 elements. But how much does it cost? Nothing. Do you know how much it costs, the chemicals in this body? £4.80. I'm a bit taller, so maybe I get to £6. That is what this body costs. £4.80. But when you're sitting next to your wife, or your wife is sitting next to the husband, I'm sure you're looking at each other and thinking they're worth more than £4.80. Just, but you know, a bit more. We are worth more than this body, because the body is simply a covering. According to the ancient teachers, we are all actually spiritual beings, the soul. Now someone may say, yeah, we are spiritual beings, we are the soul, how does that change my life? It actually changes your life completely, if you understand this spiritual truth in a very profound way. I'll ask you a question. And this is a question I asked a few months ago. For 2 days running, I asked every single person I met this question. What do you do to relax? What do you think the top answers were? Sleep. Anything else? Watch TV. Walk. Anything else? Meditate. Yeah, sorry? Spa. Listen to music.
Go shopping.
Go shopping. I'm glad someone admitted it. Do you know what the top 4 answers were? Sleep, watch a movie, take some form of intoxication, and go on holiday. These are the top 4 ways in which people relax. Now I just want you for one moment to think about these 4 activities. Going to sleep, taking intoxication, going on holiday, watching a movie. What do these 4 things have in common? Idleness? A bit more? Sorry? Yes, we go. Sloth? Okay. Escape. Thank you. Are those 4 activities not an escape from real life? When you go to sleep, you forget real life. When you go on holiday, you forget real life. When you're intoxicated, you forget real life. And when you watch a movie and you're absorbed in someone else's life, you forget your own life. Isn't it interesting that people who have everything in this world still feel a need to escape from this life? Because the ancient teachers are explaining that while our consciousness is simply absorbed in the material affairs of this world, and while we have not yet addressed our spiritual needs, we will not feel fully happy. If the body is simply a machine, then doing everything for the body may give us some pleasure, but will it give us happiness? No. Only when we feed the soul will we find true, lasting, deep, eternal happiness. Imagine you were really hungry and you drove into the petrol station and you wound down the window and the petrol attendant was there and you said, I'm hungry, can you give me some food? And he said, yeah, no problem. And what he did is he took the petrol pump, the nozzle off the pump, and he started tanking your car with petrol. You'd say like, okay, thanks for the petrol. But I'm hungry, can you give me some food? And he says, yeah, no problem. And he just keeps on tanking your car with petrol. No matter how much petrol goes into the car, your hunger will not be satisfied. So similarly, the ancient teachers were explaining that while our consciousness is simply absorbed in the material affairs of this body and everything that goes together with maintaining the body, we will not find lasting happiness. To find true happiness, we have to awaken our spirituality and feed the soul. And this really is the main teaching that the Bhagavad Gita gives us. If we move on to the next slide, here we see that the soul is on a journey. We were here before this life and we'll be here after this life. This life is just a chapter of existence. And the spirit soul is going through many, many different bodies, experiencing many, many different things. Somehow or other, on all of our journeys through this universe, here we all ended up in Maidenhead today. We meet here. And as soon as we walk out this door, we'll all go on our separate journeys. Through the journey of the soul in the spiritual world, the soul is trying to find happiness. But until the soul connects with the spiritual nature, until the soul achieves self-realization, and until the soul connects with the Supreme Soul, or God, that happiness will remain elusive and will continue coming back in this cycle to experience more things which will eventually evolve our consciousness. So the Bhagavad Gita explains that this human form of life is actually a very, very wonderful opportunity. It's said that animals and humans do 4 things in common. They eat, they sleep, they mate, and they defend. Animals do this, humans do this. Animals eat some food off the street, humans may go into Pizza Hut and other places. Animals may sleep on the street, humans may sleep in a 5-star hotel. Animals may defend and fight each other with their claws, and humans may use nuclear weapons. Regardless of how advanced the way in which humans do these activities, there's something more special about humans than simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And the special advantage and the special prerogative of a human form is that one has the intelligence to question, who am I? Why am I here? How can I be truly happy? And what is the purpose of life? And until and unless one comes to this point of significantly exploring and understanding the answers to these questions, the human form of life has not been fully utilized. So like this, the Bhagavad Gita is giving us a philosophy which is really helping us to make the most of our lives. The Bhagavad Gita is not a philosophy or a teaching which is about escaping the world and, living with your heads in the cloud and just filling your mind with spiritual wisdom but being disconnected from the real world. No. The Bhagavad Gita teaches how to live in this world, function in this world, perform all of the activities required to survive in life, but at the same time, how to simultaneously develop your spirituality so that you can find the deep internal happiness that we're all looking for. So those were a few thoughts on the Bhagavad Gita. I decided to cut it short a little bit because I wanted to ask if any of you had any questions on anything I've mentioned or said thus far. So I'd like to just give you that opportunity if anyone has any questions they would like to ask. Is anyone brave enough to ask a question or some comments? Yes?
You mentioned the God.
I mentioned that?
God.
Yes.
You mentioned the God.
Okay. So, thank you, sir, for your question. I mentioned a God. Do we believe in God? The Bhagavad Gita explains that there is a God. There's one God. Some people call him Allah. Some people call him Krishna. Some people call him Jehovah. Some people call him Yahweh. They may use different names, but they're all approaching the same supreme person. So the Bhagavad Gita does indeed talk about Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, and how when we connect to God, then actually we are almost connecting to the very source of our existence, and in that way deriving unlimited happiness and peace in our life. Just like if you have an appliance, if it's just sitting here and the plug is just lying around, it can't do much. But as soon as you plug it into the main socket, then all the energy, all the power is being utilized by that appliance. So similarly, when we as spirit souls connect to God, then we actually find the happiness that we're looking for. And therefore, this is the meaning of religion. Religion comes from the Latin religare, which means to again link. This is the meaning of yoga. Yoga means to connect. So people are trying to disconnect from this world, as I explained, through sleep and intoxication and so on. But you cannot disconnect from this world without connecting to something higher. And that's really what spirituality is all about. Is that okay? Thank you. Yes.
What's the point in connecting the whole life?
It's a very good question. What is the point of it all? Why are we even on this journey? Is that your question?
Collectively, the whole shebang, the whole thing, what's everybody, everything, every universe is in that, not just singly, our own journey of self-discovery, collectively.
So collectively, what is the purpose of everything? An amazing question. The essence of existence is happiness. And happiness comes from relationships, isn't it? Happiness doesn't come from things. Nowadays we love things and we use people. But really we should use things and love people. Real happiness comes from relationships. And the deepest types of relationships are when we relate to each other as spiritual beings. So the collective purpose of everything is for every single entity in this universe to realize their pure spiritual identity and to relate to each other in pure spiritual consciousness, and in that way to have complete peace and harmony in the entire universe. And therefore these teachings of the Bhagavad Gita are so powerful. If the world understood that we weren't this body, would you have racism, which is based on the body? No. Would you have sexism, which is based on the body? No. Would you have nationalism, which is based on the body? No. Would you have ageism, which is based on the body? No. The purpose of life is to awaken our spiritual identity and perfectly relate to each other in a mood of pure selflessness. And in that way we derive unlimited happiness. And that is the collective purpose of everything. Is that okay? Okay. Alright, we'll take one last question and we'll finish. Okay, so how do we get out of this circle and how do we actually reawaken our spiritual identity? Very good question. For a small fee, we can tell you the answer. All major credit cards accepted. I'm joking. The Bhagavad Gita proposes different processes of yoga. Yoga means to connect with something higher and to disconnect from this world and to break this cycle. So the means by which we can break this cycle of birth and death and repeated material births in this world is by adopting a process of yoga within our life, and by adopting that process, connecting to God. Now, when you hear the word yoga, you may think of gymnastics, you may think of breathing exercises, and you may think of getting healthy and having a good figure. Yoga is much more. Yoga is about connecting our consciousness to something much higher. And therefore, the Bhagavad Gita proposes in detail, explains in detail how one can actually practice yoga in their daily life, and in this way connect to the spiritual reality and to God. Yes, and meditation is one of the major practices within yoga. Yeah. And we'll discuss more of that later on. So thank you so much for your attention. Nobody enjoyed me too much. And we'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please give another round of applause. That's excellent.